Hi, I'm Ayla Ruby, and welcome to another episode of The Cosmic Cafe, the companion interview podcast to thecosmiccircus.com. We have a very fun episode for you today. We're talking with the folks behind Apple TV Plus's kids animated show CURSES. It's an awesome show where a family who has been cursed and the dad turned into stone try to right the wrongs of their family's past to break the curse. There are jump scares, ancient artifacts, and so much more. I had the chance to speak with Jim Cooper, Jeff Dixon, and Leo Riley all about the show. So I hope you enjoy. Well, it's lovely to meet you all. I'm Ayla Ruby. Okay, so first, I have a daughter that's 7, and this show is like right in her space. So it's really cute. I love it. So thank you for that. Thank you for just making a really cool show for kids.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. No, I loved it. She loves it too. She's downstairs. Hopefully won't crash this, but yeah, I have a lot of questions. So I'm really curious about, Jeff and Jim, about your partnership. I know, it started on the playground, is essentially that elementary school.
Literally, yeah.
Yes, for your kids. Can you talk about, so after you have this kernel of an idea, from the playground, when do you know it's go time? How do you approach that? What was the kind of development process for the program like? When do you, after you have your idea and figure out this is what you want?
Well, what's funny is the first thing of the first part of the process, I think, for us was to make sure that we could actually write together, because we had never actually written as a team before. And we've always just had our own individual careers. So we actually, the first hey, can we do this? We actually did a feature script together, which was kind of our, can we do this experiment? And it worked really well. And it was a balance of horror and comedy. And it was this 4-quadrant thing. And we're like, hey, this can actually work. So that was kind of, I think, our very first test case, just to see. And then from there, we actually started going, oh, this could actually work. What is something that we would really, so that was, I think, that we don't really discuss even that much, because it was like, you don't think about it. You always just think curses. But there was this test case that kind of made sure we could write together. And what we discovered, a lot of it was just, we have a lot of strengths. I don't want to say weaknesses, but things that either of us are just a little stronger at, whether it be structure or character or dialogue or whatever, that we started to find that that person's strengths, or that, we would really start to find who would lean into that. I would write some of the more scary scenes. He would write a little bit more of the history explanation scenes. So we would find that balance of through our writing as well. I don't know if that fully answered your question, but Coop, take off from that.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, a lot of it, I joke, this is completely true. A lot of it was talking through on hikes we would do together. I mean, you'd literally hike, and you got to talk about something if you're walking 5 miles, you know what I mean? And we would talk about different things, and it's like, okay, kernel of an idea of family is cursed. Okay, what do you do? And like that. And it was interesting. Should it be live action? We talked about it live action for a while. And then someone's like, that you could never make that show because that would be too expensive. And they're like, put it on the shelf for a while. Got the idea. What if we did it animated? So it's funny. It really evolved a lot over the years. So that in itself is kind of fascinating. Like, it would almost like be a long essay to explain, okay, we thought about it this way and then this way.
What I do love, though, is that where we've landed in a spot where we'll throw ideas out to each other all the time, whether it is, story ideas or series ideas or episode ideas or whatever. And we'll, how about this? How about that? How about that? And there'll be a lot of like, maybe, but then there'll be that moment of just like, that's it. Like we like that's it moment. And so we know that we wait for the that's it moments, because if there's a lot of those like maybes, you just know subconsciously that's not the best one. But we do definitely have that moment.
One of my favorite moments there is, so Pandora is the name of Jeff's sister.
Oh,
And we're literally on a hike, and he's talking about my sister Pandora, and I'm like, were your parents aware of the story of Pandora when they named it? No, they weren't. I'm like, dude, that's a great character name. So it's kind of funny where, like, I don't think he necessarily would have gone, let's name a character after my sister, but you're like going, dude, that's it right there.
Oh, that's awesome. Leo, how did you like connect with them and get onto the project? Well, because you have a more of an animation background, right? An animation directing background.
Correct. Yeah, I think I was rolling off of a project that was an action project here at the studio at DreamWorks, and I was brought in by development. You know, it's one of those things. I think, you know, I'm trying to think about like the projects I've worked on, and it seems like every project that you hope to work on is the project that you're maybe not currently working on, right? Like stylistically, I come off an action show and I was like, yeah, I could work on another action show, but I really like to do something different.
Yep.
You know, and so when they said, oh, we've got this gateway horror show that, you know, would you be interested? And I was like, absolutely. So I think that's how that came about. Really was initially that I was doing some when they were early in development. I was doing some storyboards and just helping out and kind of bouncing around on projects in development. And this one seemed to be the one that just had legs and just went. So yeah, that's how I guess I got involved.
Well, and by the way, it's interesting too, because some storyboards had been done before Leo like jumped on board. And when he came on board, there were a couple moments where Jeff and I were like, whoa, what's it like? New revised things. And it's like, you knew the minute, like, because Leo understood the language of horror. There were shots and scenes that you're like going, okay, that's it right there. And it was very exciting because it was just something you're like, that we could recognize instantly without Leo even having to say anything. It was like there in the drawings.
That's awesome. That's kind of like a great way into. So, you know, one of the things that's appealing about the show, you guys have talked about gateway horror, you know, and scaring people, and it seems to be part of this larger philosophy that scares are good. And I would love for you guys to just talk about that and, you know, expand on that a little bit more, because I think it's such a cool thing.
You broke up just for a second. You said
sorry.
Larger philosophy of it.
That scares are essentially like mild scares are a good thing for kids because it helps them, you know, overcome their fears and kind of be brave and work through things, which I think you see a lot of in the show.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was something that was just very personal, near and dear to me. Just because that was kind of what I kind of went through as a kid myself. So I think for me, it was just really about, I tried to test myself a lot as a kid, and sometimes watching things I should not have been watching, but you know, I still tried. But so this is like a way to do that that they should be watching. You know what I mean? It's like this is the safe way of accomplishing the exact same thing. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about how the show definitely means something a little different to every person, whether it is, you know, a theme here or a moral there or different aspects. And so I know that both Leo and Coop probably have, this is what that's most important to me here. This is what that's most important to me here. For me, honestly, it's exactly what you were talking about. I really do believe in kind of building courage through a little bit of pushing yourself beyond some boundaries that maybe you wouldn't normally do. And so the characters try to do it in a few of the points, and, you know, we tried to do it with the show.
Well, then I'll raise the question then to both Leo and Jim or Coop, as you say. Can you talk about what's the thing for you in the show that really sticks out, along the lines of what Jeff said?
Well, for me, it has been the idea of viewing things differently. Like, it's funny. We were talking about like the nature of a curse. The nature of a curse is someone or something was wronged. And to end the curse, how do you make it right? And I've always thought it was really fascinating. You really kind of have to get on the level of the thing or figure out the curse and go, what's truly at the heart of the matter? And the reason why the family is successful is because they view things differently than everyone else has in the past. You know what I mean? Rather than like the baboon head. Well, the sensible thing would be lock it up and, so it can't bite you or whatever. And they're like, well, no, what's it after? What's the matter? And like solving that. And to me, that's kind of the fascinating thing. And that's kind of true really for any decent story. You're like, what am I not seeing here? How can I look at things different? So that's what I'm always fascinated by.
I think I'm trying to remember the original question, but I wrote down a couple of things really quickly, just so I hope it makes sense. I hope that
it'll be good.
Okay. But I think for me, working on the show, a lot of it has just been, finding a balance, right? Of being able, like, how far can we push it without being too scary, without, and being thoughtful about our approach to the storytelling, pushing the scares, and yet then, just trying to be clever about like how you offset that with either, color palette or levity, or, just finding ways to sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought.
No, that's totally fine.
Yeah. But then also, I think also, having chances to pay homage to things that really inspired me and that I love about the genre, and yet doing it in a way that's accessible without being, like, again, too in the realm of what Jeff was talking about, the stuff that you weren't supposed to see. This is the beginning of that. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. And I know we're running close on time, but I really wanted to ask about this. So Stanley and Larry, a lot of comic relief, obviously, and they're kind of like emissaries for the family through the world, since dad is cursed. One, are they named after anyone special? Because I had some, I don't know, I was just wondering if it was an Easter egg. And two, can you talk about the approach to those characters and how you saw them and what they brought to the world?
Well, I will say this. I will let Coop take the part that I know he wants to say. But the one
Not
thing,
100% sure I know what it is.
the one thing I will say about Stanley and Larry is a lot of people have asked us, oh, did you base them on C-3PO and R2-D2? And the answer is no, we did not. But the one thing that we did kind of base a little bit of them on is Coop and I. Because we actually, they're very, very, very exaggerated versions of essentially kind of the way we react to things. I can sometimes be the Larry and he can sometimes be the Stanley. And so we definitely used a little bit of that in there. And as far as the names go, that's what I was going to say, Coop. I think. Well,
it's funny, like, literally, this is gonna like sound like totally nerdy, obscure, but like the Stanley, I think I can't even exactly remember, but I always think like Stanley and Livingston, the Dr. Livingstone, I presume.
Yeah.
And
wasn't he there was a skull, right? With Dr. Am I totally confusing the stories with Dr. Livingston? No, never mind.
No, they were just explorers, but then there was also like Laurel and Hardy. We kind of like pictured them being kind of like, and then to be perfectly honest, Larry was originally called Jerry just because we thought that was funny.
Okay.
And legal's like, we can't call him Jerry, and we're like, why? And they're like, there's like another skull out there named Jerry, and we're like, seriously? How about Larry? Larry's fine. And we're like, woo, Larry it is. And we have a friend named Larry too.
Yeah, we have a friend named Larry, so he loves it.
And so you're like, it's not named after you, but we were well aware. Now I'm intrigued. What is your thoughts? And maybe
I was totally wondering if it was Stanley was named after Stanley Kubrick. I couldn't figure out Larry at all. But that was my thought. I'm like, okay, maybe because there's some Shining references in Curses. So
glad you saw those.
This is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Nope,
No, I was just gonna say the Coop when I said that what I thought you wanted to say was the Stanley and Livingston thing. So
yeah. And by the way, can I tell you? I mean, you know how like memory works? I think that's where we threw it out. I mean, literally sometimes, but like I can tell you, like Cornelius Vanderhouven, that name came up because when we were on one of our hikes, we were talking about the grandpa, and I started saying Cornelius Vanderbilt, and like midway through, I was like, well, it can't be Vanderbilt. So I'm like, Cornelius Vanderhooven. And Jeff laughed. And we're like, Vanderhooven it is. So like that was like the extent of that, where you're like, it's kind of Cornelius Vanderbilt. But we kind of want to make it sound a little funnier. And so it's funny, like sometimes I genuinely don't remember. Although then like Horace, we're like, okay, if it's Panda. Okay. I will be quiet now.
From the outside,
that story you can't tell.
Yeah. Well,
no, it's me being verbose.
Yeah, he'll go. So I'd say from an outside perspective, I think this exaggeration that you guys think that you're experiencing, it's not quite as exaggerated as you think.
But by the way, so we also did like the scratch voices for them when like you sometimes you just need scratch voices because you've changed the line and the actors haven't recorded yet. And so like I'd be Stanley and Jeff would be Larry. By the way, worst experience ever to then have to be in the room when the real actor like has to fill in the thing and your voice is in there and you're like, okay, I suck. I'm not a good actor.
You guys had amazing actors too, right? You had the voice of Freddy Krueger. You had Spike from Buffy. You had your main cast. How did they come on board? What was that like? Because that, like, as a horror person, that's amazing.
It's a combination, honestly, of the amazing casting department of DreamWorks. Like, they really would be like two things. Number one, who are some people you think? And we're like, can we shoot for this guy? And they're like, shoot for this guy. So we would throw names, and then they would compile lists that would have some of those names that we wanted, and then a whole bunch of names that we never thought of, and be like, whoa, that was a stroke of genius. And so there's some names, I mean, I won't say which, whatever, but there's some names that like they were our first choice and we got, and then there's some other ones where it's like, oh my gosh, we would have never thought, but they are perfect, So it was we were really lucky that all of them took to the material really well, and they every one of them is just, everybody in our cast has just been absolutely incredible, and I'm glad the SAG strike's over so they can actually talk about the show.
Yes. So my last, and I'm getting the message we have to be done in a moment. So is there anything you want folks to know about CURSES? Is there anything that you want to leave people with for all of you?
Honestly, what this is going to sound so dumb, and it's going to sound very like, hey, but just tell your friends about it. We just need to get the word out about the show. We want everybody to see it. We're so freaking proud of the show, and we just really want as many people as possible to see it and watch it. Yeah,
and honestly, we made it for the whole family. Like our intention is kids watch it, the parents watch it. There's going to be a lot of stuff, and I don't mean like, ooh, it's ribald humor or something like that. The adults will understand that the kids won't. I mean, like, I think thematically and some of the thoughts and some of the background, I mean, I think I think a lot of adults will be like, oh, wow, they're really dealing with some interesting issues here.
Yeah.
Leo, you go back, and I want to say one more thing. I don't want to interrupt.
I don't know how to follow up what you guys were just talking about. I guess I would just say that, please check out the show. It was, put together by some really, a group of really thoughtful, kind, talented people who just really, tried to put everything they had up on screen. So, yeah.
I completely agree with that. The only thing I will add at the end is, and it's been one of my absolute favorite things that's happened since the show came out, is we've been getting photos from people of their kids watching the show from like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And what's so fun is some of them are hiding halfway behind a blanket. Some of them are kind of looking over here, and they send these photos to us, and everyone brings me so much joy because they're having fun with it. It's not like they won't sleep at night. They're like, okay, another one, like they ask for another episode, but it's those moments of actually like that experiencing that fear for kind of the first time, you know, because if you think about it, a lot of these kids have never really experienced this. So this is a new sensation to them. Seeing those photos are the greatest thing in the world. So that's what I would say is that, like, for parents out there with kids, watching your kids watch it is fabulous.
I just realized the photo is sort of like the photo that you get in a roller coaster, like during the dive, and everyone's like that, and like they sell it afterwards. You're like, yeah, that's it. We want to see more of those.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks. Thank you for listening. You can find the companion article for this podcast, along with all the other news for those who like superheroes, science fiction, and fantasy, films, TV shows, and other media at thecosmiccircus.com. Have a great day.